The U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel has said his intelligence services have, quote, some confidence the Syrian government has used chemical weapons on a small scale, and said it's believed that the nerve agent sarin was used against civilians and rebel fighters. Let's get more details from RT's Marina Portnaya live for us in New York. So Hagel's comments are the first confirmation of any kind of chemical weapons being used in this conflict. Tell us more about that and what effects it could have.
Well, while addressing reporters in Abu Dhabi, U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel said that the White House has informed members of Congress that intelligence officials believe with some degree of varying confidence that Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's government has used chemical weapons against members of the opposition, specifically sarin gas. Hagel didn't provide any specific facts on when or where the alleged weapons were used, and it is not even clear what the phrase "with some degree of varying confidence" even means. Does that mean that one intelligence official is confident that this has taken place and one is not confident? Clearly that language is either convoluted or a bit confusing. Now, Secretary Hagel said that Assad's use of chemical weapons violates every convention of warfare. But what's interesting is that on Tuesday, Israel's intelligence officials claimed that the Syrian government had used lethal chemical weapons against rebels, and at that time, Secretary Hagel expressed his doubts about those findings. Now, the U.S. is currently pressing for the United Nations to conduct a comprehensive investigation into allegations of Damascus's use of chemical weapons. But the United Nations Secretary General has previously appointed a team of experts, but the Syrian government has been accused of blocking the team from doing its work. Meanwhile, Syrian officials have accused rebels in the country of using chemical weapons. Now, according to the Associated Press, Secretary of State John Kerry has recently come out and also said that the Syrian government has launched 2 chemical attacks against members of the opposition. Those accusations have already been made by Britain and France back in March. Now, U.S. President Barack Obama has previously said that the use of chemical weapons by the Syrian government would be a game changer in the U.S. position on intervening in the 2-year-old civil war. In a letter sent to 2 U.S. senators, a White House legal official did write that the assessment of likely chemical weapons use in Syria will not automatically trigger action, including military intervention. But the official also referred to bad intelligence about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq that led to the U.S. invasion of that country. In that case, the intelligence was proved wrong. Everybody can remember just a decade ago when Colin Powell sat in the chambers of the United Nations Security Council shaking a vial to try to convince the international community to go along with America's invasion into Iraq. And clearly, his claims of Iraq having weapons of mass destruction were proven wrong. But nonetheless, U.S. senators like John McCain are already calling for action. McCain has said that if the U.S. now declines to intervene in Syria, it would send the wrong message to other adversaries in the region. McCain and other Republicans in the U.S. are calling for the establishment of a, quote, safe zone in Syria, and also urging for the provisionment of weapons where necessary to be provided to rebel fighters in Syria.
Now, at this point, have any of Washington's other allies in the West or in the region spoken out about this?
Absolutely. Britain's Foreign Office says it has limited but persuasive information from various sources showing chemical weapons used in Syria, including sarin gas. Now, again, persuasive evidence, again, with this jargon, these words, that is not quite clear and not 100% factual. Now, UK officials are calling on Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to cooperate with international bodies to prove he had not sanctioned their use. In a statement, a spokesperson for Britain's Foreign Office called the situation in Syria extremely concerning and said the use of chemical weapons is a war crime. Back in March, but here's what's most important, I think, to point out in this developing story. In March, when the U.S. intelligence community was previously investigating reports of chemical weapons used in Syria, blood samples the opposition groups in Syria from alleged victims. But here's the problem. According to reports, American analysts couldn't be entirely sure where exactly those blood samples came from or when precisely the alleged exposure took place. So even any investigations that the American intelligence community has made hasn't been 100% conclusive. But according to what some experts, what is conclusive here is that the current accusations against the Syrian government that are taking place now is eerily similar to the accusations that were made against the Iraq government preceding America's invasion in 2003. And that is the concern right now that many experts are voicing, is that all these statements being made by Washington and its Western counterparts can lead to military invasion when there are not enough facts yet in place. So this is the recent development taking place, of course, coming from statements made by Chuck Hagel.
All right, Artis Marina Portnoy live for us in New York. Thanks for that update.